Hello everybody. Hello everyone. How are you doing? Okay, let's start from where we stopped. It's not launched your emulator. Let me close this and connect to my phone. Then run. Hello. So in our last class, we looked at text feeds, which I explained that text feed is used to get users' input in form of text. So we have another type of form. We have another form which is called drop down. Drop down is used to select item in drop down. So the widget for drop down is called drop down button. Let's see that. Drop down button. Now, drop down button, it takes decoration just like text feeds. It takes in decoration, int text. Drop down also taking items and unchanged. Unchanged is in text feed as well. So this is the function that is called whenever there is a change in our text feed or in our form. Let's say you change one of the texts, or you delete one of the texts you put inside the text feed. So it's called the unchanged function whenever you change or you do something on your text. But for drop down is just to select item. You are not typing inside the drop down. So unchanged is called whenever you change your selected item. Whenever you change your selected item, drop down is for unchanged is called. So drop down also takes in items. So it takes in items. Items means the items that you want to show on your drop down. We all know what is a drop down, right? Yeah. So drop down is just like a text feed with options. So where you select one of the options. So now let's look at how to use a text feed. So first thing is, if you hover your mouse on text feed like this, you will see that text feed it takes in a dynamic type here. You see something like drop down. This is the constructor. You see something like new drop down, then angle brackets dynamic, something like this. Right? So what this means is that drop down has generic type. What they mean by generic type is it can accept any data, any type of data for your items. It can take in any type of data for your items. For example, here we have let's say we want to use string. We want to use drop down of type string. Then our list will be item 1. I don't know if you can see my screen from here. Let let me try and install it. Let me try and install srcpo on this computer. hope you all can see my phone here. Okay. Alright, you are good to go. Let me go back to your Android Studio. Alright, so we have is it okay? A minute please. Let me take it. So as I was explaining, we can this drop down is taking type of string as the items parameter, as the item data type. So we have list of strings. So
if you put in dynamic there,
it will still take strings. Dynamic means you can take anything, right? Yeah, dynamic means you can take anything. So let's say item 1, then item 2, item 2. So but if you look at this, let me give this unchanged a value. If you look at this unchanged, if you hover on it, you can see that it's not coming up. Right, unchanged is expecting a void function with type T. This T means anywhere you see this T, it means the data type is generic. It's generic in the sense that it can take any data type. It can take string, widget, anything. Do you get? So now they say this unchained is expecting a function of dynamic. For example, you can see function string. So, and if you notice, there is required here, which means that it is required we pass it. If we do not pass it, our code will not run because it will be expecting the unchained. Any data type, any parameter that you see required behind it like this, it means that data is required. So let's change unchanged, and it's expecting, since we say that our data is string, that is why we will pass string and name it value. Let's name it value. You can name it anything here and just change it like this. This is how to pass unchanged. Oh, you can remove this data type. It's not expecting data type from us. Now, as you can see, we have no error on the unchanged, right? But this item is still throwing an error. The reason is because if you hover on this item, it says it is expecting list of drop down item, which is of type string. Do you get? It's expecting a drop down menu item. So meaning that whenever we pass string as the item, we have to map it to drop down item. Do you get me? Whenever we pass a string, we have to map it to drop down menu item. So how do we do that? You just do, when you pass your list like this, just do dot map. Then dot map is expecting a function. It's expecting a function. Let's just pass the function. And this function we are passing here, can anyone remind me the type of function we are passing here? We are passing anonymous function. Don't forget, we do something like anonymous function. The function that doesn't have a name is anonymous function. Here now we are trying to pass a function that doesn't have a name, so it's an anonymous function. Do you get? So we pass anonymous function. So it's expecting, let's say this is a element. This is an element. Then we return drop down menu item. Now we've returned the drop down menu item. Now this drop down menu item has a child, and the child is we can pass any widgets as the child. that child is what will display on our list, on our drop down. So in this case, we want to pass text. I hope you guys are not confused. Let's say then elements. Okay, good. Now at this point, we have items, item 1, item 2, which is type of which we are trying to map to a drop down menu item, and we are already doing that here. And drop down menu item takes in a child, which is any widget that you want to display. But in this case, we want to display a text which will display the item we have in our list. These elements you are seeing here is representing these items. So this item 1, if it's display item 1, this item will be passed to this element, and this element will be displayed inside this text here. Now we are still having error because it's expecting a list, but since we are mapping the list to a drop down, so it's converted to iterable list. That is something that it can be iterate. Once something is iterated, that means it can run continuously until we pass it back to list. So to pass it back to list, we will do something like dot. Is it here? No. We do dot. So we will do dot to list, and we are good to go. Or 0. All right, so let's see our screen. This is not coming up. Let me run. Okay, I think we are having bound okay, yeah. We'll also pass a value to item, which is element. Okay, so our drop down is already on the screen. This is it. Oh, sorry. So we have our drop down on the screen. You guys, don't worry about this drop down. Make sure you study how it is created. So along the line, you get to understand the flow one by one. Just know that drop down, it takes in items, and the items is what you want to display on the screen. Then you map those items to drop down menu item like this. Then you pass in your widget that you want to use to display the item. Then you give it a value. This value is important because if you forget it, you get an error like this. Now we want to make sure our drop down item is extended to the screen. A drop down button has a parameter called expanded. Where is it? So you see something like bool is expanded, which is currently false. Let's change that to true. And true. So when we do that, this takes the whole width of our screen, and as you can see, now to give it decoration, just like we did for the text feed, we can just copy the decoration in here. Just pass the decoration here. Okay, it says okay. This one doesn't have decoration.
What doesn't have decoration?
You said?
What does the drop down menu have?
It doesn't have decoration. That's what I'm looking at.
But I tried it.
You said?
I tried it.
Yeah, it doesn't have. That's what I'm just saying. What do you use to style your own?
I didn't style it. I just take it inside the.
Let me see.
I put it inside the. Inside
Inside what? Inside container?
inside the container.
No, you did not put inside container. Let me see your code. Let me see your code. Okay, now there is drop down button which doesn't take decoration like this. There is another type of drop down which is called drop down form button. Let's change to that. This one takes in decoration. this one takes in decoration and where is it? As you can see, we have our drop downs tied on the screen. Let's modify the decoration. Alright, the first thing we will change is we want to change the name from value to select units. Now let's give it a spacing of. Now, to give it a spacing here, you know, text field is one widget. Another widget is drop down button. Now we want to give space between both of them. Now in this case, we can wrap it with padding. We can wrap each of them with padding, right? But while it's okay, we don't want to keep giving all of them a padding. We can do something like giving them there is something called size box. Let me use it and see. Size box, which we can give it height of 20. So this size box, excuse me please. Hello, yeah. Come on, classroom. Alright. Okay, so now as you can see, this gives it the spacing that we want. So this size box, you have a question, okay? No, they do not have the same function. Size box gives the child widgets. You know, size box, I mean padding, it has it takes the child. Hello, are you sleeping? Why are you looking at me like that? Okay, let's continue. Padding takes in a child, then it shrinks the child according to the space you give the padding value you give it. But size box is just like empty space. It's just like empty space between. You can just put let's say this is one item, this is another item, this is another item. If you give it a padding, you are giving this item a padding. It will shrink whatever is in here. It will shrink it and give it the value of the space you give it. But size box is just another widget that also takes its place, but that widget is an empty space. That's just what size box does. Then after the space, size box is an empty space. Alright, so now we also want to change the width of the border. Let's go inside border size and change it back to 1. Okay, let's change this to 1. Now let's change the color. Okay, let's leave the color. Your computer is not charging, no. let's adjust the border width of the text feed as well. Now, okay, so we have two widgets on the screen right now. The first one is the text feed. The second one is the drop down button, right? Now let's add one more. This one is the value that we want to convert. This one is the units. Let's put in all our units here. I think let me open Slack on your computer. So we have meter. Let's change our items to meter. Kilometer. What was the third item? Grams, kilogram, miles. Grams, kilogram, miles. So we have now we have all our units here. Let's clone this drop down for unit 2. Let's select this is select units from. Let's just clone this. But in this case, let's change this one to select unit 2. That is unit you want to convert from and unit you want to convert to. So when you select here, so okay. Now there is an issue here whereby in this text feed, as you can see the button that comes up, we have text, both text and number, and if user puts in a text, you cannot convert the text right to a unit. So we want to restrict our text feed to only take in number. So to do that, let's go back to our text feed. The first thing we can do is we want to change the type of keyboard that brings up. So to do that, if you look at this documentation, there is something like keyboard type, which takes the type of text input type. So keyboard type, let's change it to text input type dot number. Now that we change it to number, whenever we put in whenever we try to, oh sorry, let me, yeah, it should be number. Let me start it out. Alright, as you can see, the type of keyboard that pops up is only numbers. So meaning that you can only put in a number in here. But this is just the keyboard type. If they use external keyboards, this is software keyboard, right? This one, so it's able to control the software keyboard. But what if they use hardware keyboard, which that one can take in any the keyboard is already on your screen, so it can't control the type of keyboard that shows. So the next thing we can do is we can control the types of key it takes in. This is the type of keyboard that it shows, but what if you want to control the types of key that the text field takes in? That is where we use something like input field. Input, what is it called? A minute, please. Yeah, there's input formatter. Input formatter. So let's do that here. Input formatters. I'm coming. Let me explain. So this input formatter is a list. It takes in a list of formatters. So the list, it means that you can have more than one rules for your inputs. One of it is we might want it to take only number. So to do that, there's a constructor called filtering input formatter. Then instead of passing the constructor here, we want to tell it to take in only here you can define your pattern if you want, but here we already have a predefined pattern which is allow digits only. This digits only will only take in a digit. If you put anything aside digits, it will not take it. So for example, if you try to put comma, it's not going to take it. But if you don't have it, let's comment it out. Now that I comment it out, if I try to put comma, you see it can take in comma, it takes in full stop, hyphen, all these are not number, right? And it cannot be converted to a unit. So but if once we put in filtering text input formatter, that will this will allow it to only take in type of digits. So that's number one. Another thing is, as this is a list, it can take any number of inputs. So we can also put in, if you want it to only takes in a maximum amount of number. Let's say we want it to take maximum of 3 digits. You can do something like is it called maximum? I can't remember. Okay, it's called length limiting input formatter, and let's say we pass in 3. So this means that it can only take in maximum of 3 digits. Let's see that in action. Let's say 1, 2, 3. Then anything I'm typing is not putting it in. So you can use it. You can use input formatters to control whatever you want your input to take in. Are you following? All right. So let's go on with. There's another widget that we need here. Let's say our users, they already put in their value they want to convert. They take in their units they want to convert from and the units they want to convert to. Now we need something to tell, to call the functions to operate whatever we want to do. To call our functions to convert from the units that we want to convert from and to convert to. So we have a widget called button. We all know what is a button. A button is what you click to call a function or to perform an operation. So let's have a button below here. You can collapse your, if you want your code to be readable. For someone that was explaining that was complaining that the text is too much on the screen that you are confused. So you can just, you see this text feed, this is where it starts and it ends here. It ends here. If you notice, that automatically puts these comments for you so that you know where your code starts from and where your constructor starts from and where it ends. For example, this outline input border starts from here and it ends here. This one starts here and ends here. So you can collapse them one by one. You can collapse this, and once you collapse it, you are not going to see all the code inside it anymore. You can collapse this text feed as well. You can collapse this one as well. So now that I collapse it, you can see that our code is more readable. We can see all the widgets we have on our screen, which is text feed, size box, text drop down form feed, text size box, and also a drop down form feed. Now let's put in another space. Let's give it. Oh, sorry. Let's put in another space. And this time let's give it a size of 30. Now you notice that when I give this size box, you are not seeing anything below it, because size box is just empty space. It's just empty space. If you want to give it a width, it takes in height, width, and child. If you want to pass in a child as well. But if you pass in a child, it's going to string the child to whatever the height you give it. All right. So here we want to pass button. Now in Flutter have different type of button that you might want to use. One of them is elevated button. We have outline, text. We have text button, elevated button. We have different types of button in Flutter. So in this case, we want to continue with elevated button. Okay, elevated button, it takes in two required parameters. It takes more, but there are two required parameters. The first one is onPressed. onPressed is the function that you want to call whenever you click a button. You know, whenever you click something, you want it to perform an action. So that onPressed is the action that you want it to perform. The child is what you want it to display on your screen, even before you click on the button. So in this case, we want to display a text. So let's do that. Let's say text. Anywhere you see child, it's going to take in a widget. So in this case, we want to pass text as a widget. And what data we want to pass to it? We want to say convert. I get this thing. Okay. This onPressed takes in anonymous function. Now let me save and you see what we have on the screen. So as you can see, a button show up on our screen, which you can click, as you can see. So we have convert button. Okay. This button, it also takes in, let me see, it also takes in style, which you can use to style your button. Let's try and do that. Now this button is also have different constructor. For example, we can use elevated button dot style from. It's one type of constructor. You can use it to, you know, this is a named constructor, right? So you can use it. You can pass your style directly inside the button. Instead of calling this style function, instead of calling this style parameter, you can use style from to pass in your style directly. Right, let's do that. Now, this style, before we go on, let me just show you this before. This style, it takes in type of button style. It takes in type of button style. And if you move on its constructor, you can see it takes in background color, foreground color, overlay color, shadow color, surface tint color, elevation, padding, maximum size, icon color, icon size, icon alignment, side shape, and the likes. Are you following? Okay. So let's look at the style one by one. So the first thing we want to look at is the background color. Background color. Yeah, if you notice since the beginning of Flutter, we have been using, whenever you are required to pass in background color, we just do colors dot whatever. Alright, but in this case, if you hover on background color, you see that it takes in the type of widget state property of type color. So always notice the type of constructor your parameter is required. So this one, it takes in, it is expecting widget state property, not color. So widget state property is also taking the type of color. Let's see how that works. We do widget state color. Let's use widget state property dot all. This one is then we can pass in the type of color we want. Now I want to introduce you to another type of color, which is called X color. We can basically do here. We can just basically do colors dot green or whatever with whatever color we want to pass, right? Let me use color dot purple that we are using already. What is here? So as you can see, just by doing colors dot purple, it changed the color, right? But what if you are familiar with design here, you know there's something called X color. There's something called X color. So what if your designer already gives you a color which is not directly purple, it's not you can't basically find its name. So you want to use the X color to find the color. So you can do something like color then open brackets. Now there is different opacity for colors. We have solid color, we have I don't really know you said dark. Yes. Well, I'm not really familiar with that, but the one that that is important is the solid color. So to represent solid color, we use something like 0xFF. This is constant. It's not going to change anywhere. This 0xFF is still. Let me even go to my browser and X. Your internet is disconnected. Were you connected to your phone? Okay. So I want to see. Oh, this is what I'm trying to find. Now, like I said, X could have different opacity. We have solid one is FF, 0xFF, which is the solid 100% opacity. We have different opacity value here, which is so you know that the first value, which is 0x, is constant. Then 0x is constant. Then FF, whatever you want, is the opacity value you might want. You might want F2, E6, D9, CC, BF, B3. That one depends on you, but I can bet the one you will use mostly is 0xFF, right? So in fact, in my almost 2 to 3 years experience, I can say I've used other opacity aside 0xFF maybe twice or 3. So you are mostly going to use FF, which is this constant color. Now 0x, then the value of the color you want to pass. The value of the color you want to pass. Okay, let's.
Before you declare the background color.
Yes.
The button already comes with color.
Yes, Flutter. You know, we are dealing with material color, with material UI. So material, everything you are using, material will come with automatic, like default color. It will come. That's what we are doing here. If you look at your main method, there is something like color scheme dot from seed, which we pass colors dot deep purple. This is the default theme that we passed to our theme. Then material will use that color. It will use different variants of that color to do whatever we want to do. If we change it to blue, let's say we change this to blue, it's going to change everywhere we are using default color to blue. As you can see, it changes text to blue. If we didn't pass background color to this, it will change this to blue as well. Do you understand? So it's going to change whatever. It depends on the color you pass to your theme. Let's change it back to deep purple. Are you guys following me? Are we good to go? Now let's look for X color, a purple X color. I mean X code. Okay, let's look for X color code. X color code palettes. Let's use palettes. Now you have these different palettes, this color palette. Let me remove purple. Let's say we have this different this color palette, and we are trying to take in. Now we know that this. Let's say we want to use this color, or let's use this. Let's use this. Now this is the X code. This 53503F. This is the X color. Let's just copy it. Let's go back to now. After this FF, you paste that color that you have and save. So as you can see, it's used the color we just passed. Are we cool? So aside using colors dot green, colors dot whatever you want to use, we can also pass X code to have our color. And how do they generate this X code? The way color works in devices, in any device you use, we have color, we have three basic color, which is RGB, red, green, and blue. So the first three digits here, represents red. I mean, the first two digits here represents red. The second two represents blue, and the third represents and the second represents green, and the third represents blue. Now let me show you something. If I remove this color code, if I pass 0 0 0 0 0 0, can anyone guess what this color is going to change to? Black. The reason is because we are passing 0, which is saying that we don't want to use any color. Like you are passing empty color, which is going to use everything by default will be black. Now, like I said, this first one is blue, second is green, and the third is blue. So let's try and change. Now, the way this code works is F is the highest color, will be the highest tone of the color, where I think 0 is the lowest tone of the color. Now, in the blue axis, let's pass FF. Let's pass FF, which is going to do is, you see, as you can see, it changes to red, which says we change the tone of red to the highest. Let's change it to 0 0 and change the blue, which is the last one, to FF. So if you notice here, it's already changing it to blue. Do you get it now? If you change the middle, it's going to change it to green. So it's that code, that's what they tweak to get whatever color that you want to get. If you notice, the one we had earlier is 5 is different numbers like this. So it is between the color, it will pick the tone between those colors and use it to form the new color that you want. That's how Xcode work. Are you following me? All right. So aside background color, what other thing we can pass to? We can pass elevation. We can pass elevation to button style. What is elevation? Elevation is the more you want this, the more you want your button to have shadow underground. Elevation is, let me set it to 2, and you see the difference. This elevation, it takes in the type of okay, it takes in widget state. You see, when I pass double, it's throwing an error, whereas it's expecting widget state properties of double. So in this case, we just do widget state properties of all, and then we say 2. If you notice, you see some spacing, some dark thing behind this button. Let me change it to high value. Maybe it will be more obvious. Let me change it to 9. Why am I pressing? As you can see, it's a bit obvious now. Do you get it? You get what elevation does now. This elevation, we also have it in. Do you have a question? The elevation, we also have it in app bar as well. If you want your app bar to raise a bit, so you can pass elevation to it as well. So are we cool? And, okay. No, it's only any constructor that you see that have elevation. That's the only constructor you can pass it to. the property a constructor doesn't have, you can't pass it to it. For example, this drop down button doesn't have anything like elevation. You check all its property, it doesn't have anything like elevation, so you can't pass elevation to it. Do you get? So this size bus doesn't have anything like elevation, it only have key, width, height and charge, so you can't pass any. So only the parameter a constructor have is only what you can pass to it. So this button style have elevation, that's why we are able to pass elevation to it. Any property that have button, that have elevation, that's what you can pass. Are you guys following me? Is there any questions so far? Are we good to move on? Are we good to move on? Okay. Now, instead of this style, I prefer to use buttons elevation button dot style from, and you will see the reason now. So, oh, sorry. This I miss this. Now this elevation dot button style is a constructor of style. So instead of creating button style and passing all these parameters, we can do, instead of passing button style, we want to pass elevation button dot style from. So the difference between this is this elevation button dot style from, it automatically have default style for elevated button. So here now we can pass background color. Now instead of passing widget states property, you can pass, if you notice, when I change it to style from, if you hover on background color, it's expecting the type of color instead of widget state properties of color that the other one is expecting. This one is expecting color, so you can pass your color directly. You can pass color and 0xFF. So as you can see, so it changed the color. We can also change foreground color. Foreground color, let's change it to colors dot white. Do you see it, how it changed the color? So this foreground color is going to affect the child of the text. You know that text can also take in a style, and we pass the types of the color we want for the text. Do you know? Okay, so we can do that, but since we're already using foreground color, which is going to override the color of the child, so that's what foreground color does. I hope you get it.
We can either change it at the text.
Yeah, we can either change the color from the text here, or we can use it from foreground color. You are cool, right? Okay, which other property do we want? Let's set I think maximum size. Let's change it to 500. Why? Okay, it's expecting size. We have another widget called size, which is it takes width and height. So let's say width is 300 and height is 50. Maximum width. Okay, doesn't affect it. Let's check. Okay. I want to see, we have fixed size as well. And the last is minimum size. So as you can see, it changed the width and height of our button. So we have compact. All right. So here we are done with our UI. The next thing is to proceed to our functional part of our app. The functional part of our app, which will be converting our value to whatever value we want to convert it to. Now, in here, okay, before we move on, you remember I said something last class about stateless and stateful widget. We'll be looking at stateless and stateful widget, and I told you that the correct type of widget we are supposed to use for this screen is stateful widget. The reason is because, okay, let's just start now. What is stateful widget and what is stateless widget? Stateful widgets are these widgets that can hold the states of your widgets, that can manipulate. It gives you data about the state of your widgets. That's what it's basically. It gives you data about the states of your widgets. Do you get? So stateless widget doesn't have any states, so it doesn't have anything to do. So, but stateful widget, it can manipulate your states, it can update your states, it can give you value of your states, it can give you information when your state is created, when your state is deleted, when your state is changed. So let's convert this to stateful widgets. Convert to stateful widgets. Now, when you convert to stateful widgets, you have these two classes. The first class is the class that is extending the stateful widgets, and you have this method, this override method, which creates this function, creates the states. This function, override function, this override function creates your state. If you notice the function name, it says create states. That's the moment your state is created. And which state does it want to create? It wants to create this home screen states. This is the state of our stateful widget. Now, this is a private class. You remember? Yes, encapsulation. This is a private class which it also extends states. So as you can see, abstract class states, which extends stateful widget with diagnosticable. So it means that it's an abstract class and it has a function of build. Where is it? Now it has a function of mounted. We will look at it later. It has init states. It also has did updates. All these did updates is when your state is being updated. The init state is when your state is being initialized. You know, that's a different state of your widgets before it's been created. When it's been initialized, when it's been updated, we have other ones, resemble. Don't concern yourself with resemble. It's when your app is rebuilding, but don't concern yourself with it. Now we have other ones as well. We have this change, we have set states. This set state is used to update the states. We have deactivate. Well, let's move on to our widgets. Now we have the first reason we need to use stateful widgets for this screen is because this is a controller, this text editing controller. We have something called memory leakage in memory management in mobile development. You know, in web, you can just create your app. It doesn't have anything to do with your device memory, but your mobile app, you have to manage your memory such that only your app doesn't take the whole memory, and your phone will start lagging because other apps will not be able to use the memory because your app is already taking the memory. So we want to minimize the amount of memory we want to use. So in this case, this text editing controller is a controller, and we want to delete it immediately we are done using it, so that the memory space will be freed for another thing our app wants to use. So then this state has a function called disposed. It's an override. So you can see it has the change dependency, the update widget, and dispose. So the one we are concerned with currently is dispose. If you see this called when the object is removed from tree permanently, that is when your widget is removed from the screen, it's this dispose is being called. So, and in this case, we want to dispose our value controller. So let's do that by doing value. Value controller dot dispose. So we'll call this dispose function, which it will dispose our controller. Are we good? We are cool. Okay. Now let's remove this default text. You can also use init states. We have init state as well, which is when the init state is when your screen is initializing, while dispose is when your screen is done and you leave the screen. When you leave the screen, so it's dispose whatever you have inside the screen. All right, so now we have three let's go to the logic part of our app now. We are done with the UI. Can you all recreate this UI? You can recreate it. You can try. Is that the case for everyone? You should be. Don't worry. You will, and in fact that will be your assignment. You recreate this screen. Don't worry, I will give you the assignment after this class. Okay. Now we need three things. The first thing is the value we want to convert, the unit we want to convert from, and the unit we want to convert to. Let's declare a variable for those three units, for those three data. The first data is value string. Notice where I'm declaring my own data. It is inside. Let me collapse this. I'm collapsing this so that you get to understand where I'm putting all my data. These widgets, this is build method, which I'm already closed. I've already closed. Now we have string units from. Let's make it a nullable type. Let's declare another string unit 2. We can also declare another one, which is a string with an integer, which is the value, right? But we don't need to. The reason is because we already have this controller, and this controller will give you us whatever the user inputs in the text feed. So it will be redundant if we declare this. But the thing is, this controller will always give us the value in string. We have to convert it back to integer or double. Now let's make it this also a. Now let's come back to our widget. We want to pass this. We want to give this value, this unit from and unit 2 to our drop down, so that it knows which value it updates, which value to update whenever user does something. So this drop down button has a parameter called value. Do you get? And so we can pass unit from. Here to value as unit 2. So so now you remember the unchained function, right? Okay, let's use the unchained function now. Now here we want to say that anytime user they select anything from the drop down, whatever the value they change, set it to our unit from or unit 2. So in this case we do unit 2 is equal to value. This value here is whatever the user changed to. So we are setting our unit to value. Do you get? Now, okay. Here to inside the unchanged units from is equal to value. Okay, is there any question? Is there any question about that? You guys should pay attention. No. Okay. Now, so we already setting our value, but there is something in Flutter which is your widget doesn't. Anytime you change a value, anytime you change one data, you want that data to reflect on your screen. because initially if you just change what anything like this, you want it to okay, let's do something here. Let's say I have another text here. And I say unit 2. From is now look at something. This is you can see this unit from is kilogram, right? Let's say I do something, I change it to feet. You know, I've changed it to feet, but it's still showing kilogram here. Let me change it to meter. I change it to meter, but it's still showing kilogram. The reason is because in Flutter, when you change a value, you want it to rebuild the screen. This is why we have build method. Build methods can rebuild several times. It can rebuild several times. The first time you build your widget, it's going to lay out your widget. But anytime you change a value, you want that value to reflect on your screen. That means you have to rebuild that screen. Do you get it? You have to rebuild that screen to reflect the changes that you made. Do you get it? Yeah, it's just like you are refreshing your screen. I'm not sure you guys get what I mean. Hello? 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 You guys are sleeping. This is getting to I thought you said you like Flutter better than that. And now this is Flutter. Okay, let me come again. You know, let me see if I can get an example. Okay. All right. Let's say this remote is color black. We all know that this remote is color black, right? The first time I'm getting this remote is color black. Any person that comes here now can see that this remote is color black, and that's when your widget is building for the first time. Now everybody has gone. I now change this remote color to green. Everybody that has gone doesn't know that I've changed the color until they come back to see the remote in my hand and see that the color has changed. That's when they know that the color has changed. You get the logic now? It's until they come back to where I am and see the remote and see that the color has changed again. Now in your widget, your build method has already run the first time you build your app. So it has already get the initial value of your widget. Whenever you change something, you have to rebuild that widget to get the current value. And to do that, we have a function called set state. Set state. So, and we are able to access set state because we are using stateful widget. Remember, stateful widget is the only one that can access states that have state. Stateful widget doesn't have state, so it doesn't have anything to set or to dispose or to initialize. So it's only stateful widget that have set state. So inside this onChange, every time we change the unit value, we want to set states. Let me hover on set states and see. Notify the framework. You can see the documentation. It says notify the framework that the internal state of the object has changed. That is the one that will call the build method that something has changed, come and rebuild. Do you get? Whenever you change an internal state of a state object, make the change in a function that will pass to set state. So the provided callback is immediately called synchronously. It must not return a feature. Don't worry about that yet. So now it says we can now put this inside here, and also set states and put all right. Now if I select you know the current value is meter, which is on the screen. Now if I select, I change it to feet. You see it changes to feet immediately. If I change it to pounds, it changes to pound immediately. If I change it to ounce, it changes to ounce immediately. So it automatically, anytime I change any value, it will call the build method to rebuild the state immediately. So now there is something called states management in Flutter. You know, this is a state. How do we manage our states? We'll look at that in the later course. I just want you to know that there is something called states management. We can use different resources to manage our states, and one of them is set states that we are currently using. So the reason we have different different resources to manage our state is the default build method have a problem that we will look at later. So just know that set state works very well. So we can use set state to rebuild our state. So it has a little problem that other resources are trying to fix in their implementation, which we will look at later in the course. So, but for now, let's go on with set states. Are we cool with what we have now? Are we okay? You said? I feel like I should tell you guys to stand up and jump like 10 times. You guys you are dulling the class already. Hello. It's getting intensive, right? This is where we know the developer. You said? Why are you so concerned with how many lines of code? This is currently 189, and we've not even write the function. So, you said? For just one page. We are not doing anything like navigation yet, so put your mind at rest. Flutter is easy. You guys you don't know anything here, honestly. I can bet Flutter is one of the easiest programming languages. Okay, should we do Android development? Java. Let's do Java. You know that, or we should do C++ or C#. Yeah, so let's continue with Flutter that we are doing, and let's try and understand it. You're having a headache. Don't worry. After the class, you go and take. After the class, go and take chill exotic. It will cool your mind. Okay. So Flutter is easy actually. Let me look for. Don't worry. I will try and look for maybe a cheat sheet or a YouTube tutorial that you can still watch. The way they used to talk. All right, let's move on. We are done with the UI aspects. Let's write some functions. Should we create another file and write our function inside the file so that the UI will not be too long? No, then let us create a new file. That's the best way. We are done. So now if you put any value now and try to convert it, will it convert? So we are not done. We are not done until we are done. If we did not have issue with the computer last week, we would have done with the UI, and today we'll be doing the logical aspects, because we have to finish this thing this week so that we can move on next week. Or are we rushing the class? All right. Do you all agree with that? That the class is okay. Hello. I want all of you to agree now. I can't hear your voice. Isaac. Oh, you are okay. What about you, Ifeolua? Okay, now let me create a new file. In fact, what we are doing here is wrong. The reason is because we are putting everything inside one file. To make your code readable, you have to create different file for each case. So let me separate the file now. Let me create a new file. New that file. Okay. Now let me copy all the implementation of home screen inside the home. And paste it here. This was the time. 1. We still have like 2 hours. What is it now? You guys are lazy. You are very, very lazy. At least let's finish the logical aspect. Let's make our converter work. Okay, now we have the screen. we have home screen. Now let's, inside the same file, let's create a new class. Let's create a new file. Let's name it home provider. Okay, let's just go unit service or unit Okay, so inside here let's create class unit converter. Okay, now we have a class unit converter. Now let's create a function. The function that will convert whatever we want to do. Let me go and copy the function, this that I pasted here the other time. Okay, let's put this in here. Okay, this as well. We all know what this is, right? This is our matrix table. I'm coming. Let me just. We have miles. What's it again? We have pounds and ounce. Okay. It should be 7. Okay. You all remember this table, right? This is a unit converter, which it states the formulas to convert from one unit to another. For example, to convert from meter to kilometer. So it means that 1 meter is equal to 0.0001 kilometer. 2 grams is equal to 1 gram is equal to 0 kilometer. 1 gram is equal to 1,000 kilogram. Do you get? So this matrix table, and we are representing the matrix table here. Now the first thing is we already have this a major map, which is we use it to convert our data, our unit, to integer. So that the reason is because we want to be able to access the position of each of these value. For example, let's say we want to find the position of meter. We want to convert meter from here. We know that meter is in position 0, which this with this formula we can use this 0 key to access all the value of the key. Then we want to convert to grams, which we know that gram is in position 2. So since we already have the values of the key, we now look at 0, 1, 2, which means 1 meter to gram is 0. Is that clear? So
normally there is how we can convert. Is there how we can convert meter to gram?
So don't worry, let's just continue. We'll get to now. Let's write our function to put this. Alright, so let's write our function that converts our units. Okay, let's write void. Okay, yeah, let's continue. Void converts. Now this converts, we want it to take 3 parameters. This first parameter is the value. The second parameter is the unit from. The third parameter is the unit to. Then we will expect the results. We will want it to return a result for us, right? So let's use, in this case, let's use named constructor. Okay. Required units from, required units to, required int value. Now this now takes 3 parameters. So let's go back to our home screen where we'll use the function. Now it is inside the onPressed function, inside the button, that we will call the convert button. The convert function. So let's go back here. Now let me collapse this type. Now we can call the constructor of convert service. We all know how to call a constructor, right? Do we all know how to call a constructor? How to call a constructor? We know that this class that automatically creates the default constructor for us, this unit converter class. So let's go back here and say unit converter, then let's give it a variable of unit converter, a variable name of unit converter is equal to unit converter. So this is our constructor. Now we can now use the constructor to access the values inside the class. Let me go back to the class. Now you see we have formulas, we have map, and we have convert. Now I want to ask you a question. Can we access this formula? Let me change this to map. String, comma, list of variables. Okay, now I want to ask you this question. So, can we access this formula, this map, and convert? Can we access it from here? Why? Hello, I'm expecting all of you to like this is an easy question. We cannot access formulas and map. The reason is because they are private variable. How do we know that they are private variable? It's because we put underscore here. If I remove the underscore, I can access them outside here. Let me try and do that. So we can do unit converter dot map. As you can see, we have access to map, we have access to convert, but we cannot have access to formulas. And that's because the formula is still private constructor. Now let me go and change this back to private. And let's try again. As you can see, we don't have access to map again. All right, so we want to do .convert. Convert is a public constructor, so we can access it with the constructor. Can anyone tell me why do we make it a private constructor? Why do we make it private variable? You should at least know the reason. Well, the reason is because it's not actually important, and the reason is because this formula we want to use it only within this class. We don't want to use it outside the class. We don't want to use it here. We only want to use it inside the unit converter class. That's why we make it private. Do you get? So we don't need it anywhere else. Now we have our unit from, which is the variable that we created from earlier. We had unit 2 also. Now the value will be how do we get value from our controller? You know, the value will be the text editing controller value, right? So the way we can get the value from the controller is value controller. Value controller dot text. Okay. Now, like I said, our value controller will return a string. Value controller dot text will return, as you can see, argument type string cannot be assigned to parameter type int. The reason is because this value controller will return it in the text for us in form of string, in string data type, but in our convert function we are expecting an integer. Now, how do we convert the value controller dot text to integer? How can we do that? I'm asking you. I'm asking all of you. How do we convert string to integer? You said?
I thought we use dynamic.
We do not use dynamic, we use int. Where is it? This is it. Required int value. Let me change this. Let me string. So that this knows that. Oh, let's make. Yeah, it will fail because. Okay, yeah. Let's continue with this. Now this is throwing error now, but we'll fix this later soon. Let's fix this here first. How do we convert a string to an integer? You guys should not fall my hand though. Speak louder now, you might be correct. To string. We are trying to convert from string to integer. Hello. You guys are sleeping on this thing. Try password. Read line what? You guys, I always mention what each function does. Now that you are saying read line, and I told you know that read line is used to take input from the terminal. So, do you want to take input here? Hello, hey, you guys, why are you doing this to me? Why are you doing this? Anyway, we'll use int.tryPass. We'll do int.tryPass. Then we pass in our value. Then you can say we've used it several times though. You guys, you are following my hand real time. You've only impressed me once since we started this class. This is no good too. Alright, so we are done with value. We have a good. Now, this unit from unit 2, they are throwing error. And the reason is, what's the reason? Can anyone tell me the reason? This unit from, it says argument type string cannot be passed to parameter string. What is the issue here? You said? I can't hear you. To int. We are not converting, we are only converting value. We are not converting unit from and unit to.
We need to tell the other one that
Hey, God. You said?
the question mark.
What happened to the question mark?
Like we have to include the question mark in the string where we declare our string.
It's saying the argument type string can't be assigned to parameter type string. It basically means that one is nullable and one is not nullable, and they cannot be compatible, because if one is nullable, the value can be null, meaning that user can still use the user can decide not to use anything, and when they click on convert, it will break our code. So how do we now undo it such that user must enter something before our app can go?
These are none.
We use what? We can do something like if we can do something like if units from this guy we can do something like unit from if unit from is not is equal to null, and unit 2 is not equal to null, then we are good to go. Also, we want to check if value controller is not empty. Value and value controller dot text dot is not empty. Then if all these are true, that's when we want to call our function. So that is when we want to, then we can put question mark here, which is telling our function that cannot be null. Hello. Okay, now let's work on the function, the convert function. Let's look at the convert function. Now we already know our unit from. Let's get the unit from. We can use mail map, then the unit from, then let's convert it to lowercase, because on our screen we are using uppercase. So let's create this variable and name this one int. We want to get the position of our units, right? So let's say int from is equal to let me look at the now let me show you something before we move on. There's something, see, one thing is, if you see, most developers are always lazy, in the sense that we don't want to do something and repeat it again. We want to use one function and use it everywhere, right? So for example, this list, we have it here, we have it here again, we have it in here again. So which is not really okay, because it's really, this will take its own space in the memory, the other one will take its own space as well. So it's really good to use one, to create one variable, function, or anything, or widget, then use it across anywhere you want to use it. For example, this list, we can create, we can cut this out, and up here we can say final, since we know that we are not going to be changing any value from it. Then list, we know that it's a type of list, and list of what? List of string. Then we can name it items. Then is equal to, then we pass all, we paste all our values. Okay, let me put S here. Meters, kilometers, grams, kilograms, feet, miles, pounds, and ounce. Is that correct? Okay, we are correct. Feet doesn't have S. Let me go back to the feet doesn't have it. So now since we have this items, we can now use the item here. Where is it? We can use the item here. We can also use it here, since we know that they are still the same thing and they are not going to change. We can use it here as well. Do you get? Yeah, we'll just call the variable name. Are we cool? All right. Now, let's continue. Now it says mail map dot to. In fact, instead of doing dot lower here, let's go and do dot lower on our UI. Create from what? Dot to lowercase. This one to lowercase. All right. So here we just need to pass unit from, and also int 2 is equal to measure map units 2. Let's make this non-nullable. Is there any questions so far? It's getting confused. Hello? Do you have any question? Is there any question? You guys should talk now. Do you have a question? Okay. We all know that here we are just trying to access the value of this map, right? Okay. So, clap for yourself. Now we have our to and we have our from. Now we are done with this. Now the next thing is we want to be able to access this formula. Now let's call. You said?
Formula is the converter.
I don't get this formula.
Okay.
I don't get what you are asking.
I've seen it. I've seen it.
Okay. So let's try and look at our formula as well. We'll now do var. Let me use var for now. I can't. Okay. Formula. I want someone to tell me why I'm able to use this variable formula here and I still have it here. I have variable formula and I have it here. So I want someone to tell me. So the formula will be the two, okay, from no, we'll do formulas, then we access from to string. Why do we want to convert from to string? The reason is because this index here, we are using string as our key. If we are using integer as our key here, we don't need to convert it to string. Do you get? If we use int, then we use key. You see the first one is not throwing error. Then we can now use this without passing it to string. Do you get? Alright, so let's revert it back to okay. Now we have our formula, which let's say we have this as our formula. So this will give us access to the key, the value of the key. Then we want to check, we want to look for the position. Position is where we want to convert to. So then we can do this and 2. Let's put up this thing. So we have our, let's try and print. Let me print this and say, let's print formulas. Now let me try and run my app and open my console. My app is already running. So let me click on, let's select value, let's say 29. Select from, you said? Okay. Let's select grams, 29 grams to 30 grams. Note that we are not converting yet though. We are just getting the formula. Let's click convert and look for the, let's see. When I click convert, oh, it's not, where is my console? I want to see where it's printing, it's printed to. Let me move this right. Okay. As you can see, I'm getting 0, 0, 0. Let me convert. Why is it printing 0? Meaning that our formula is not correct yet, because we cannot be getting 0. Or let me look for let me look for 1 meter to 1 meter. This is where we know. Okay, it's actually correct. So 1 meter to 1 meter will be, the formula will be 0, right? 1 meter to 1 meter is 1. 1 meter to kilometer will be 1000, right? So okay, will be 0.001, right? So we have what we are looking for, which means that our formula is correct. Now let's go and do the conversion. So to convert, we'll do value that we want to convert, the value we want to convert, multiply by our formula. Formulas. I asked you guys a question. I have not got an answer. I asked you why am I able to create formulas here and also create formula? I have two variable like named formula now. Why am I able to do that?
Is it the one of this private now?
Even though it's private, they are still inside the same class. I have one here, formulas. I have another one here, formulas. I can make this one to a private. So why was the reason? You guys, did you not? Didn't I explain about scope to you guys? Scope. This formula, this second one, will only be within this convert function, whereas the other one will be global within the class. So anywhere inside the class, I can have access to it. But the one I declare inside the convert function will be only limited to the convert function. That's just it. Okay, so we have our value already. Now let's return our results from here. Let's change this to double. Like we get our formulas in double. Now let's return this. Now we'll return it. Then how do we display this to our users? We can do something like this. We can create a variable at the top here, just like we are doing for this function. We can create a variable. Let's name it, let's put it int results. And let's make it nullable at first. Let's make it nullable at first, because at first user haven't input anything. Then let's go to below this thing. Okay, let's do something. This button, let's move it down to the bottom of the screen. We can do that by doing there's a widget in Flutter called spacer. You know, this size box gives it the spacing, like we have to specify the space we want to give it. But there's another widget called spacer. So this spacer, you don't pass either height, it will extend the space until there is no more space. Now, for example, we put it between this text field and this button, meaning that it will push this button until there is no more space to push it to. All right, let's save that and see it in action. So as you can see, it pushed the button down. Let's move this from here and have it inside here. So let's say the results, or let's say value. What should we do? And that's what I already told you. You don't put any number. You just push it to whatever whatever the space that is available. It will push it until there is no more space. All right. That means you have to use spacer twice. You can put one here and put it here. Sorry. You can put this spacer here, so it will adjust this to the middle. that is, it will push the one from the below, we push the one at the top to we push, so leaving the text at the middle. Or if you don't need to do that, okay, there's a parameter here called flex. You're going to give it flex of 2, where you give it where this one we have flex of 1. Flex is it will, like, the more it should extend, like it will give it so for example here, if this one that I give flex, the below one will take more space. I mean, the top one takes more space because it's the one that having flex of 2, takes more space than the one at the bottom. Is that clear? If you don't want to give it a flex, you can also give it an height. You can give it you can just use size box and declare height of, let's say, let's use 30 here. So to push it there to the bottom and give it the space of 30 height. So now let's say the value, okay, so we declare a variable as a result. Now we want to say, since this unit converter is returning the result for us, let's say results is equal to type of double. Okay, our result is going to be a double. As you can see, the error is gone now. So inside a function, we have result is equal to the response of the outcome of the function. Are we good with this? Okay, so then we want to display results at the bottom of our screen. You can say the results is results. Now, first, it's saying the result is null. Why? Because the result is nullable, right? Now, let's try and convert, let's say, 6 kilograms to pounds. I want to convert 6 kilograms to pounds and click convert. Now, I've clicked on convert. As you can see, let me click again so that you see that, but our result is still saying null. Can anyone tell me the reason? You said? You guys should talk now. You said? Yeah, I've clicked on convert, which we are expecting it to display the results here, and it's not displaying. It's still saying null. Why is it not? Be sure of yourself. It's because we have not reset our state. Simple. We have not reset our states. We are just assigning the value of result to the variable. We have not called our build state to rebuild the state. So let's do that here. After this, we can do set state. Then we copy all these functions in here. So let's try again. Let's convert 100 kilograms to kilometer. Is it even possible? Let's change it to grams. and as you can see, it changed the value immediately. The result is 10. Is that 10,000? 100,000. So 100,000 of kilograms will, 100 of kilogram will equals to 100,000 of grams. So, and that's the end of our function. We can try kilometers as well. Kilometer to meter. 100 kilometers to meter is the same thing. Let me change it to 9996. Let's 96. So you see, it's still the same. So this is our second application in this class. We built. This is our first functioning app. So we can deploy this and put it on Play Store. We have one app on Play Store like that. So we have built a unit converter. You can launch it if you want to launch it. It's already working. Okay, so I hope you guys can do this yourself. So you guys should watch the tutorial again and again and again until you make sure you get it. In the next class, we'll move on to another project. So make sure you understand this one very well before we move on to another project. Am I communicating? Please, I'm begging you this time. Try and watch the video again and again. I will try and see if we can get the video available today. If not today, tomorrow maximum. So you can do whatever you want to do with it. You can modify it. You can. Let me see if I can push this code. So git up. Okay, maybe you guys should get the source code from this guy's computer for now. So until I find a solution, then we'll use GitHub account. I will set up GitHub, and you guys will also set up a GitHub account, whereby when you are done with your assignment, you push your code to your GitHub, and we'll be, by God's grace, maybe next class we'll work on GitHub. So now we've created our first Flutter, first functioning Flutter application. And as you can see, Flutter is very easy. Flutter is fast. We start this today and we are done today. If you are doing it on iOS or if you are using Swift, or you might not be done today. In fact, if it will be done today, it will take lots of time. So Flutter is fast, is easy to use, and its performance friendly. Okay, is there any questions so far? Ask any question at this point. Ask any question so far, whatever question you have on your mind, anything that is not, that you are having to doubt on, just ask. You don't have any question? The source code. What's the problem? The logic aspect, Abby. That's very easy now. to be very honest, we are just okay. I've heard you. Okay. Your assignment will be you create a UI. Those of you that have not submitted any of my assignments, you are compiling it. The day I will ask for all of it, you will know I'm not joking with you. You said? You said? The one I gave you, did you do it? The one I said you should study, did you study it?
That last one. That UI.
Okay, in this time, I want you to create a UI. You will have a feed that will take your name. You will have a feed that will take your age. You will have a feed that will take your gender. In this case, gender will be, gender is either positive or negative. It's either male or female. So you will use drop down. Why are you so concerned with the lines of code? Okay, if you don't want it to be more than 500 line of code, just extract your widgets. For example, let me quickly show you something. I was thinking maybe in the next class I will show you, but let me just show you here. Now, this drop down, this drop down is the same thing we are using for the other one too. The only difference there is the label and the value, right? We can extract this to a widget. If you click on this, you will see where is it? It's not here. Show context action. Okay, instead of this, let's just do this. Let's create a class. Let's create a class. Let's create a stateful widget, or let's use stateful widget. Let's call it our app drop down. App drop down. App drop down. Then what it will take here, let's copy everything we have in our drop down here. And put it here. This is very this is the recommended way to, like I told you, we don't want to create a widget and use the same and create the same widget somewhere else again every time we need. We can just create one widget and use it everywhere we want. We just need to change the parameters that is different from them. For example, this drop down fields, they both have the same items, the same configuration, the same decorations. The only difference between them is the value. It's only the value itself. There's nothing else. And the unchanged function. So let's do now. We can do something here. We have the parameter. We know the parameter is we can use constructor parameters to accept value from outside and use it within our app. So let's create app drawdown construct. Okay, Flutter is already creating one for us. So let's use this. Okay, no. Before that, let's declare final list of items, list of strings. Then let's pass it as let's name it items. Then we also have string nullable string value. Then we can now do this dot items, this dot value, comma this dot items. So this item is required, so let's make it required. Let's put required. Now the reason we cannot use final for value is because later in our code we want to be able to change the value of, we want to be able to set new value of value. That's why this unit now will now be value. Now be okay. I'm coming. So we have items and we have values. Let's remove this const. Now inside here, where is the second place? Okay, inside here, instead of doing drop down field, we can just call app drop down. Then we pass the items, which is from the top. Also our value, the value will be unit value unit 2. Then we can also do the same thing here. We can copy the same code. Wonder, are you seeing this? This is we are doing this because of your question. Now this will be value from. Now if you notice, this our code now is from 180 something lines of code is now reduced to 113. We can copy this one out to another file. Do you get? New directory. Let's name the directory widget gets slash app drop down. So let's paste this here and call and import material design. Okay, what else? Unit 2 will be value. Now here we cannot access, the problem here is we cannot, this is a class, this is another class. We cannot access the value of this class, of this second class from here. This is this first class is the one that is having this parameter. How do we now access it in the second class, our state class? We'll do something like widgets, small w, widgets, dot. Then with widgets, we can now have access to every items of the class. Dot value, then items, where are we passing items? So items will do widgets dot items. Now note that we are using widget dot item to access this value because we are using stateful widgets, and stateful widgets have two classes. One is for the stateful widget and the second one is the states. But if it is stateless widget, it only have one class, it doesn't have state class. So we don't need to use widget dot, we just use the parameter directly. Are we cool? All right. So what else do we want to change? Now we can now do widget dot value is equal to, then we remove this and we are good. Then in our home screen, let's go and import so our, let's try and run our app again. Do we have any error? No. Let's run our app again. Let's restart our app. You said? No, we are not extending anything. I didn't get your question. I didn't get your question. Yeah, I break down, open a new class, then I import the value to the new class, to the old class. Yes. So like I create a widget of drop down, and I takes in all these parameters. Then I create a new file. I put in my drop down here, inside here. So this drop down now, all its line of code is just 48, right? So your unit converter lines of code is 34. Then your home screen is just 113. So that is important of separating your widgets to each component. We call them components. So now we can now use this drop down anywhere. We can use it here, we can use it here. So okay, there is still something we need to change, which is the label, because as you can see, both of them is saying select unit 2. Now let's change the widgets. Let's go back to here. Let's take a parameter, another parameter called string. This one can be final. It can be final. Then label. And then here we'll do required this dot label. This dot label. Then we can now pass the label to where? Here. We can now do this, widget dot label. So inside our home class, we will now do, this is from, right? We do label is equal to select unit from. Second one, label select unit 2. So now let's save and see the difference. See, as you can see, our screen is updated. Now let's try and do 220 meters to kilometers and run convert. Oh, convert function is, oh, now there's an error somewhere. I'm coming. Okay, now this drop down, because of the unchange, because of the value that is important, we will change this unchange. We will make it inside the class that need it, so that we'll be able to refresh our state and get the value of the widget. So let's change unchange, and here let's create another final function of type string, and it's a void, and name it unchange. So we can pass the unchange here. I expect someone to ask me, how did I know the type of data type of the unchange function? Or do you know it already? So how I know it by, if you hover on this unchange, let me control click it. I cannot find declaration. Was found. Okay, this error is saying argument void change the parameter value change. I'm calling. This is not coming up. Let me change it to, I guess they changed the, okay, let's change this to value changed. They already changed the name, value change of type string. So what's the error? The question mark. Now do required this dot unchange. The reason we had to create new parameters for unchange is because, you know, each of them have different values, and unchange changes different value for each of them. The unchange for unit from change the value for unit from. The unchange for unit 2 change the value for unit 2. So we had to make it dynamic. So here now we can now pass the function. We can pass the function unchange. Unchange is equal to, then we can now say units from is equal to var. Let's do the same thing here as well. But this one will be unit 2. Okay, let's rerun our app. Let's start our app again. Alright, our app has restarted. Now let's convert 300 grams to kilograms, and let's click on convert. As you can see, our convert is working well. Are we all okay? So is there any question? Is there any question? All right, that is the end of today's class. Well done, everyone.